And by the way, this is why I never sugarcoat the political expansion of Islam. It's ludicrous to do so. Listen to my seerah. Listen to when I talked about Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu and the wars of expansion. And I go into this detail. Was Islam expanded by the sword? And I'm very frank. This is not the time to go into there. But because of my experiences, I never sugarcoat. I never give you a romanticized view and then the truth is other than that. Because it doesn't work that way.
We human beings have a tendency to judge truth by numbers. It's an appeal to popularity fallacy, but we do it all the time. Looking at the Muslim population, we might think that the number 2 religion in the world by numbers indicates that Islam may actually be true. I mean, why else would there be so many people following it? Muslims explicitly bring up this fastest growing religion meme all the time, but the reality is not so. The truth is that it wasn't Muhammad's arguments that won over his opponents. It was the political conquest of Makkah. I watched the following 2-hour talk by Yasir Qadhi on the topic of dawah, calling people to Islam, where he explicitly admits this in no uncertain terms. I'm your host, Friendly Ex-Muslim, and I give you my response to Yasir Qadhi on the political growth of Islam's numbers. In this eye-opening video, Yasir Qadhi ends up confirming that Islam was actually spread by the sword. He goes so far as to say that most of what is taught in Sunday school isn't true, that the real story is quite different. Keep in mind that Sunday school is another way of saying what most Muslims believe. History shows us the most successful methods of spreading religion haven't been convincing arguments, but rather military conquest, children born and brought up in the religion. There are some troubling theological issues with these facts, which I'll bring up later in the video. But first, let's hear what Yasir Qadhi has to say.
My dear Muslim brothers and sisters, there is a reason why the political strength of Islam followed the ideological and theological conversion. If you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, then think about it. There is a reason why the borders of the Muslim world today are essentially the borders of the Umayyad and Abbasid and Ottoman empires.
Notice he doesn't even want to explicitly say it. He says, if you get what I'm saying.
If you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, then think about it.
Rather than just stating what he wants to clearly. The reason he's beating around the bush is he doesn't want to sound like a Muslim supremacist who goes around saying Islam will conquer the world or Allah's religion will reign supreme. You know, the Anjem Chaudhry type. Yeah, the guy that was recently arrested on terrorism charges. He knows how bad this sounds, so he's saying it in a roundabout way. Saying it without saying it, if you know what I'm saying. Now, I'm going to show you another video where Yasir Qadhi is even more explicit that the Muslims on multiple occasions had no reason to fight, no reason to attack others or send armies, but they did anyway. And this, my friends, is how the religion spreads and how the Muslim world grew, not by good arguments, not by peace, but by jihad.
There is simply no denying that the Khulafa al-Rashidun and the Umayyads engaged in offensive conquest of other lands. The Sassanid Empire did not pose any immediate threat. They were not attacking the Muslims at all. In fact, as we will study, when the Muslims attacked the Sassanid Empire, Rustum said, "What are you guys doing here? Why are you attacking us? I mean, we're not bothering you. What are you doing over here?" Remember, that was the famous, we'll get to that conversation today and next time as well. And the Romans as well couldn't care less about the Arabs. Remember, we said this from the very beginning. Both the Romans and the Persians, or I should say the Byzantine Empire and the Sassanid Empire, that's the more precise term, they were minding their own business, fighting each other. And they were not fighting the Arabs at the time because they didn't see any strategic advantage in controlling the Arabs. The Arabs were not a civilization that offered anything to them, and they didn't care about oil back then, right? Unlike now. So there was no reason for them to invade. If they had wanted to invade, there could have been no stopping them before the coming of Islam. But there was no reason for them. Now that Islam has conquered and is solidified, there was still no immediate reason for them to invade. There's no threat at all. And yet Abu Bakr as-Siddiq sent armies of tens of thousands of people. And Umar ibn al-Khattab followed suit. And the same goes when Umar ibn al-Khattab sent Amr ibn al-As into Egypt. Egypt was not sending any army into Arabia. And Amr ibn al-As with 4,000 people said, give me 4,000 people, I will give you Alexandria, which was the capital of that region. I'll give you Alexandria. Why? What was Alexandria doing to the Muslims? Nothing. So the claim that, oh, all of this is a defensive battle, frankly, it's not proven by anything. And it goes against common sense. Why would you send tens of thousands of people when there's no threat at all? And the fact of the matter, therefore, there is simply no denying this. And the same goes, by the way, even for our lands of India, of Sindh, Makran. And they established...
No reason for Muslims to attack? You heard that? Imagine there's a country today that kept on attacking others for no good reason. Would you consider this a good country? I wouldn't. So by the same standards, this is not a good ideology. If you're someone who loves peace, someone who was taught that unnecessary war is bad, ask yourself, does the Islamic doctrine seem right to you? Does this emphasis on expansionism, fighting, war, capturing booty, and taking slaves fit in the ideal world? Or is it dragging us further behind? The Quran says in 9:29, fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who were given the scripture, until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled or humiliated. And in 9:33, it is He who sent His messenger with guidance and the religion of truth to manifest it over all other religion or ways of life, although they who associate others with Allah dislike it. And what happens in war? Death, mayhem, slavery, killing, violence. All for what? So that the Muslim treasury gets bigger and more people become Muslim? The doctrine of jihad is a key part of dawah. It's a key reason why Muslim armies went out country by country to grow the Muslim empire like a disease that spreads further and further until you cut it off. Islamists know this, which is why they strive to re-establish political Islam. In fact, Yasir Qadhi brags that he's proud that the Muslims did this, and that this is why many of them are Muslim today.
As I said, historically speaking, the vast majority of converts that converted across the globe, it was because of groupthink. Your people are converting, you're going to convert as well. Well, that's not going to happen by and large in this land unless Allah wills a miracle, but that is atypical. That has never happened in human history, as far as I know, where people just converted en masse by themselves. Always it was either the political dominion or their rulers, and essentially that's another type of political dominion, right? And by the way, this is why I never sugarcoat the political expansion of Islam. It's ludicrous to do so. Listen to my seerah. Listen to when I talked about Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu and the wars of expansion. And I go into this detail. Was Islam expanded by the sword? And I'm very frank. This is not the time to go into there. But because of my experiences, I never sugarcoat. I never give you a romanticized view and then the truth is other than that. Because it doesn't work that way. We would not be here today as Muslims if Muhammad ibn Qasim and Amr ibn al-As didn't go and want to conquer Hind and Egypt for reasons that were no threat to Islam. We thank Allah that Ibn Qasim came to our lands. I thank Allah that Islam came through political means. And that's what we have to be blunt about.
Funny that you need men to maim and kill people in order to convince them to change their religion. Good arguments aren't enough. Of course they aren't, because all Islam has is bad arguments. Now I think I've made the case pretty clearly. The facts are damning to the narrative of Islam spread by peace. It did not. The Sunday school Islamic teachings are wrong. It spread by force, with political force, and by compulsion, which begs the question, how is there no compulsion in Islam? The theological problem here is, what would be the point of giving humans free will, then subjugating them and politically forcing them or inclining them to believe?
Groupthink. When groupthink is positive, it's great. You want to keep it that way. Excellent. When groupthink is for Allah and His Messenger, alhamdulillah, it's great. When groupthink is the opposite, it's a problem. It really is a problem. It's a problem for us, it's a problem for our children, it's a problem for da'wah. And by the way, please don't quote me Malaysia and Maldives and whatnot. Please don't say, oh, look at those. Because firstly, they were exceptions. And secondly, do you know how those exceptions occurred? How did Malaysia become a Muslim land? How did the Maldives become a Muslim land without the political dominion of Islam, get what I'm saying here, reaching them? How? Do you know? I'm asking you. Yes. Trading. That's what they teach you in Sunday school. MashaAllah. Your whole knowledge of Islam comes from Sunday school. Oh, high school Sunday school. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Okay, alhamdulillah. Excellent. Their rulers converted to Islam. When their rulers converted to Islam, the people were essentially socially forced to follow. Sometimes politically, by the way, but socially forced to follow. Even Malaysia and these other nether regions of the world, the conversion, it is, yes, you're technically right. We're only taught, as usual, Sunday school does teach you these positives that help us. But again, if you listen to my lectures, you realize, and maybe I'm being overly cynical, but my dear brothers and sisters, because of the internet, we don't have the luxury to be in our beautiful bubble anymore. Because of the internet, I am strongly against ignoring the bigger problems out there and just teaching these half Sunday school myths, because maybe because of who I am, but I have experienced too much disenfranchisement from the next generation. I have talked to too many people who have left the faith of our own children, and they say to me, we were taught lies, we were taught truths, it's not correct what we were taught.
So Islam did not mainly spread by trade, word of mouth, and individual conversion. This is just not true. As Yasir Qadhi said, the rulers converted to Islam, and the rest were socially or politically forced to follow, if you get what I mean. You know what that means. The rulers forced or incentivized people to convert. Like in Saudi today, it's illegal to preach other religions openly. Or in China, where it's actually illegal if your government doesn't agree with your religious views. People are not converting to Islam wide scale because of religious teachings or Muhammad's personality or something like that, but because of political rule. Yasir Qadhi in the same video said that it's only a trickle of people that will convert to Islam today. And they don't do so even from dawah, but rather of their own investigation.
And I therefore, because of all of this, you will not hear me, maybe I don't know, maybe you're used to other types of philosophies, and all the best for them. But if you want me to teach you as you have asked me to teach you, you're going to hear me blunt and raw, this is who I am. It doesn't work, my dear brothers and sisters. Nobody can teach you these little snippets that you will then become super da'wah man. Doesn't work that way. The fact of the matter, da'wah is a very, very, very dry and tough field. And most of the people who convert, they already are interested in conversion. They just need the fine-tuning. They come to you by and large. Now, it's not going to happen in this land anytime soon, which means the fact of the matter is conversion will be very, very slow, trickle down, which is what it is happening. And it's going to be at the individual level, which is what it is happening. And it's going to be because of raw actions by and large. That's why we need to understand what we need to do when we interact with the broader public. We need to bring about that paradigm shift, one-on-one, not en masse.
Dawah organizations have known this for a long time. As a friend of mine who works for one of them told me, millions are spent on doing dawah, yet barely anyone becomes Muslim. Most of the money is used to keep people Muslim rather than convert new people. Yasir Qadhi also admitted this in the same video. This goes to show you that we should never judge by numbers, and we have to continue to remain cognizant that these political systems will be biased against the truth. We need to remain committed to the truth, to skepticism, to following what is right, regardless of how many follow or don't follow. If you'd like to hear more about how escaping jizya was another reason why non-Muslims converted to Islam, I would recommend Reason on Faith's video, The Narrative of How Islam Spread, which is where I got the latter Yasir Qadhi clip and I've linked it in the description. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. This is your friendly ex-Muslim Abdullah Samir signing out.